Travel changed my family. Peace, peace. Imaraifawuyi here, coming to you live from the beautiful city of Sao Paulo here in Brazil. And I want to talk a little bit today about travel and how it has impacted my family, all of the things that I've learned from it, and also, how it's just changed us really. Because, I grew up very typical American. I grew up, with my grandparents in a small town in the middle of California. Excuse the loudness, racist little town. I grew up thinking, that we were in America. This is supposed to be this powerful nation that, is so fair and egalitarian, and everybody was living good there. And, my family did well for themselves, so I didn't really realize I realized, from my earlier childhood that things can be really rough out there because I was growing up with my mom for a while. But once I started living with my grandparents, you start to get caught up in just that bubble of thinking that, that is that kind of sheltered reality is one that a lot of people experience, and it just isn't. And so there was a lot of things I learned, and as a young woman I become very aware of the need to have a different experience than just the regular American experience. So I did start traveling pretty young at about 18 or so, going to Mexico a lot, and from there that spark was sparked inside of me to go out and experience different realities, different mindsets, to explore and expand, right? And so my as a parent, it's just been interesting. I have a 14-year-old, I have a almost 21-year-old daughter, and we've been traveling since my daughter was 1 and living in different places. Like I said, she's almost 21 now, living in different places, and sometimes living in the States, not always abroad, but just doing long stays or just straight living in other places and experiencing those cultures and adjusting to those ways of life has been a very pivotal and amazing experience for me, right? Some of the things that I've learned and that I feel like has impacted my family so much, because my family is very unique. My 2 children who I was able to travel with, their fathers weren't that involved, and even though they were in their lives, they didn't never really try to stop me from the lifestyle that I had chosen for us. So with us, it just was always an energy of, being able to explore different things, experience new things, and also grow and allow travel to kind of mold us into these more kind of universal or more global citizens in a way. And so some of the things that I have learned and that I have gained and my family has gained is that we are like a super fluid, flexible family. We can live in different scenarios, different places we can live. We've lived up in by a volcano, like in the jungles of Costa Rica, all the way in like to where we are now in Sao Paulo, one of the biggest cities in the world. A Latin Brazilian city. We have lived on small islands in tiny little communities, where there's only 50 something thousand people on the island with us. We just are like really flexible. We've been able to kind of navigate different scenarios, different housing situations, live off of different kinds of lifestyle capacities, just depending upon how much money we had at the time, and just be very flexible with everything, not be too rigidly fixed on any particular way of being or way of life, but just to be able to flow and experience different things without overthinking anything, and realizing that everything is temporary, that even if you're in a situation that's not the most ideal in your travels, doesn't mean you're going to be there forever. So you just go ahead and you allow the experience and you learn from it, because every experience can be a learning lesson if you allow it to be, right? And so the flexibility was a huge one. My children have also, they have really learned and grown a lot, I think, in terms of being kind of self-contained. So there's a lot of self-containment that a family learns when they are used to just being on their own out in the world, you know, making do for ourselves, navigating different terrains, making connections as we do, sometimes making less connections and just being kind of insular into ourselves, but just being very flexible with the different ways that life presents itself, and just really allowing our self-containment, our happiness, our internal joy, and just okay, you know, being okay with us and who we are as a family, as individuals, and all of that has been a big one for, I know, me and my children. I think, you know, my children are they're very social. They're not socially awkward at all, but at the same time, they're fine. If they don't have that, they're okay, you know. And I think that's important because we're in a world now where you have to be even so particular and so discerning about who you deal with because of just all of the weirdness out here. And so it's important that you know, enjoy your own company, and are in an energy where, you know, you're not going to just run and be desperate to build relationships or have relationships with people, especially if there's something wrong with them, you know. And there's something wrong with some of these folks out here. And so, and you're gonna notice that, because you're gonna know that, hey, I'm good by myself. If you're gonna be making me feel worse than I would all by myself going through stuff, then I don't really need you like that. And so it allows you to have better discernment, I think, when you're self-contained in the way that my family is. So that has been amazing. Also, another way that my family has changed is that we have become serious minimalists. We are minimalists. We don't acquire a whole lot of stuff. You know, sometimes we acquire stuff, but when it's time to shift, we shed the stuff. There's nothing that we need to hold on to. You know, I know some people that are like, oh, well, I only buy the most quality stuff, so I can't be shedding stuff. Or some folks, they want to travel the world, but they also got to keep stuff in storage for years at a time, you know, in the U.S. so that they can travel, because, you know, they don't want to let go of stuff. Or maybe some of it is family heirlooms and things like that. For me, I don't, you know, I've had some heirlooms and some different things, but I don't know. I found great placements for those things, because I realize with the lifestyle that we have, that it's not going to be always realistic to be so attached to stuff. And so part of getting away from the consumeristic culture also of the United States is letting go of this idea of being super attached to stuff and things and needing to take it with me everywhere I go. And if I don't take it with me, I've got to know that it's in my ownership. I don't have that. And I don't think my children really do either. So we're very, very good at releasing things when we need to. And that is amazing. And, you know, another thing also that has been a big one for me in my youth, in the travel life and the experiences that we've had, is that we've learned that, you know, you make mistakes. Mistakes happen. Even in our travels, we've had oops, we've had hiccups, we've had challenges, and you just learn to let mistakes and things like that kind of roll off your back. You don't take stuff so serious. You don't act like it's the end of the world because something didn't go as you planned it. You know, you keep it moving. I mean, I can think of an issue that we had when we were coming back out here to Brazil, and my daughter had a really beautiful bass amp that she'd fallen in love with. You know, she's a musician, so they fall in love with certain tools and things. And so she'd fall in love with this amp, and when we got to the airport, we hadn't really done the research on the size and, you know, the fact that certain musical instruments can't be checked and what have you. And so when we found out we couldn't even pay to have it come with us to Brazil, it was really sad, because she had to leave it in the airport. It was like a whole big old deal. All these different supervisors were coming around. None of them would okay us bringing this amp. And it was just an amp, you know. But saying all that to say, you know, yes, my daughter shed a tear or so, but she left that amp there, and sure enough, maybe it wasn't, you know, maybe we couldn't quite replace it, because it's hard to get electronics of the same quality here where we are. But, you know, we got here and we went ahead and we replaced the amp, and it just was what it was. So, you know, you learn that sometimes you're gonna mess up. You're not gonna have researched things all the way. You're gonna be making mistakes. You can't let that put fear in you about getting out there, about experiencing, and about having excuse me, and about, you know, just experiencing new ways of living, new places, new things, you know. And you may have to let go some of these material creature comforts and be a little bit uncomfortable for a while, just so you can get a good feel for something different. Okay. And so I think that has been a great lesson for us as well. So yeah, I mean, there's been so many things. Drop down in the comment section anything that you and your family, if you're travelers, what are some of the things that have impacted you so much that it's changed your family? And if you look to travel with your family, if you want to get out of the U.S., if you want to experience different things, drop that in the comment too. What is it that you want to experience? What do you want to see happen? What kind of expansiveness you want your family to experience out here in the world? Those are some of the things that I was thinking about today, and I think it's important that everyone really figure out what it is they want to experience when they think about leaving the U.S., getting kind of out of the belly, and going out in the world, and how it can impact your family. What are some of the changes or adjustments you would like to see in your family's lifestyle and culture? Because every family has its own culture. And just really, writing all that out and being about doing what you need to do to bring it to fruition if that's really for you. So yeah, check me out. Check out the description box down below. I have some links if you need any support or anything, resources around your move. We got you. And yeah, thanks for coming by, y'all. Mara.